of the medieval through the Renaissance. Now, in the medieval times, Middle Ages, most of the theater came from traveling companies coming around giving what they call morality plays and passion plays. These were stories taken from the Bible that they put up and they acted out because most people couldn't read the Bible. Most people couldn't read. You guys are far more educated at your age than grown adults were back in the Middle Ages. They weren't doing math problems, they weren't doing science problems, they certainly haven't been reading for as many years as you've been reading. So these passion plays are the only way they were getting the Bible stories acted out in front of them. Now when we go into the Renaissance, we find that they have now pulled a little bit away from the church teachings and they're doing their own stories. Some of them are even making fun of some of these morality plays. But a lot of it becomes a lot bawdier, there's a lot more music involved, you have some crazy characters. And they brought back something very interesting. They brought back masked theater from the old Greeks. And they used to wear a mask that had an image of an attitude that they were going to display on it. And they could do anything behind the mask. The most famous masked character to come out of the Commedia dell'arte has got to be terrifying, isn't it? Yes, the Arlecchino. He is the most famous of all the Commedia dell'arte characters. And he goes back to the Middle Ages. The Arlecchino is the very first clown. He was the jester that the kings and the queens used to keep in the court. And if you look at a deck of playing cards, you'll see this exact figure on the Joker. Very good, exactly. You got it right. The Joker. He was the one who would make the kings and the noblemen laugh to forget about the problems. And if you couldn't make them laugh, that was it for Arlecchino. So it was pretty dire for him. Now, the public, the audiences that would see us going into their villages, into the piazzas, he was always their favorite. Because, like I said, they couldn't read. A lot of them were very poor. They had to work very hard all day long, and they needed somebody to represent them, somebody to be their champion. And the Arlecchino was their champion. They always rooted for him to win. But they needed to identify him quickly. And the way they could do that was by his wardrobe. Because he's a poor character, he couldn't afford the clothes that the noblemen wear. So he would go behind people's houses, take their laundry off the drying lines, go home, sew it all together, and make this patchwork quilt. And the diamond shapes that you see on the leggings, that's actually called, if you see it on kitchen floors now, sometimes you see them in houses, harlequin. It's a harlequin floor. We get that from the Arlecchino. Now, he also has a specialized mask, which again, we get 1,000 years earlier from the Greek theater. This is a Venetian half-faced mask. Venetian because it's made in Venice, Italy. Half-faced because it only covers half of his face. It has an expression on it that stays fixed throughout, so that can be sad or happy, or in this case just kind of dull. But because it's open on the bottom, Arlecchino can talk. And if he's all the way up in your grill, or all the way back in the nosebleed seats, you can pretty much hear and understand what Arlecchino has to say. Now he brings with him a specialized instrument. This is called a slapstick. So we get the term slapstick comedy from. Since there were no sound effects back in medieval times or the Renaissance days, he had to bring his own. So if he's walking across the stage and somebody drops a barrel of pickles on his head, he well, okay, that's not a sound effect, that's just bean burritos for breakfast. But, speaking of breakfast, Arlecchino, he hasn't had a whole much more to eat than a couple of beans. So if you brought snacks with you, ring ding, ding dong, ring a ding a ding a dong. Make sure you keep them well hidden because if he sees them, he's going to snap them right out of your bag. And Arlecchino, well, he has this one very strong character flaw. He is a born romantic, but he's a little unlucky in love. And he tends to fall in love with the prettiest girl he sees every day.